My child, stop running after doors I already closed. Stop exhausting your heart trying to force your way into places where my spirit has already removed your assignment. I need you to hear me clearly today because my patience is running out on you. How much longer will you stand outside begging for acceptance from people who were never meant to control your future? How much longer will you cry over rejection while I stand beside you holding the master key to the very thing you have been praying for? You keep staring at what ended while heaven is trying to lead you toward what is beginning. You keep mourning the room they pushed you out of while I'd already prepared another room where your peace will not be attacked every day. My child, why are you still trying to rig open conversations I told you to walk away from? Why are you still replaying betrayal in your mind as if those people hold the authority over your destiny? They do not decide your future. I do. And I did not create you to spend your life begging outside doors that were locked by my own hand. I know rejection hurt you deeply. I know the silence from certain people broke your heart. I know you gave love, loyalty, patience, forgiveness, and effort to relationships, friendships, jobs, and situations that still ended painfully. I saw how confused you became when the very people you supported turned around and abandoned you. I saw how you questioned your worth after people failed to recognize your value. You started believing that maybe something was wrong with you because doors kept closing in your face. But my child, listen carefully now. Not every closed door is rejection. Some doors are protection. You cried because they walked away, but you never saw the conversations I blocked behind your back. You never saw the traps hidden inside the opportunities you begged me to open. You never saw the spiritual attacks waiting behind some of those doors. You only saw what you lost, but I saw what would have destroyed your peace later. I closed doors because I love you too much to let your future die in places that were slowly poisoning your spirit. The enemy convinced you that rejection meant failure. But what if I allowed the door to close because the room had become too small for the future I planned for you? What if you were grieving over places that could never carry the weight of your calling? My child, some rooms cannot contain who you are becoming. Some people only had permission to walk with you through one chapter, not the entire story. And when their assignment ended, I allowed separation to happen, even when it hurt your heart. You thought the closed door meant your life was falling apart. But I need you to understand something today. I was redirecting you while you were crying. I was protecting you while you were begging. I was preserving your future while you were questioning my silence. And now I am standing before you asking one question. When will you trust me enough to stop chasing what I already removed? My child, there were nights when you cried yourself to sleep because somebody chose distance instead of loyalty. There were moments when you stared at your phone hoping certain people would call, apologize, understand you, or fight to keep you in their lives. But instead, you were met with silence. And that silence broke something inside your heart. You kept asking me why they changed. Why they stopped caring. Why they became cold after everything you gave them. But you were asking the wrong question. The real question is this. Why are you still emotionally attached to places I already removed your spirit from? You keep trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You keep defending your heart to people who already decided not to value it. And every time you do this, you reopen wounds that heaven is trying to heal. My child, stop standing outside locked doors trying to convince people to let you in. Stop draining your peace trying to gain validation from people who cannot see your worth. I never called you to beg for a seat at tables where your presence is tolerated instead of celebrated. You were not born to chase human approval. You were born to walk in divine purpose. You know why the rejection hurt so deeply. Because you thought those doors were connected to your identity. You thought if certain people stayed, then you were valuable. You thought if certain opportunities worked out, then your future was secure. But I am teaching you now that your identity cannot be built on temporary people or unstable situations. Your identity must be built on me. Because when people leave, I remain. When doors close, I still hold the key. When rejection comes, my purpose over your life does not change. The enemy wanted the closed doors to make you bitter. He wanted heartbreak to make you lose trust in me completely. He wanted disappointment to convince you that your prayers were pointless. But what he meant for destruction, I used for redirection. Every painful ending carried hidden mercy inside it. Every separation was moving you closer to environments that match your destiny instead of draining your soul. Type yes, Lord, I trust you fully and completely if He is the rock under your feet. My child, there are rooms you are trying to force yourself back into that no longer carry my presence for your life. You keep knocking on doors where your peace disappeared long ago. You keep asking me to restore connections that were slowly destroying your confidence, your joy, and your spiritual clarity. And because you cannot yet see the bigger picture, you mistake my protection for punishment. But I need you to trust me now more than ever before. I did not remove people from your life to harm you. I removed them because I saw what would happen if they stayed too long. I saw the future arguments, the betrayal, the manipulation, the emotional exhaustion, and the spiritual confusion waiting ahead. You only saw the comfort of familiarity, but I saw the danger hidden beneath it. And because I love you, I refuse to let you build your future in environments designed to slowly destroy your spirit. There were times when you begged me to reopen doors that I permanently sealed. You cried, fasted, prayed, and questioned me because you thought losing those things meant losing your future. But now I need you to understand something that will change your life forever. If I removed it, it means I already prepared something greater. Read those words carefully, my child. If I removed it, I already prepared something greater. You are not being punished by closed doors. You are being repositioned for the next chapter of your destiny. But you cannot walk into new rooms while emotionally living in old ones. You cannot receive fresh peace while constantly reopening old pain. You cannot hear my voice clearly while still begging people to choose you after I already called you chosen. My child, my patience is running out because I have spent too much time trying to pull you toward purpose while you keep running back toward places that hurt you. I have new doors waiting for you, but you keep staring at old locks. I have greater relationships prepared for you, but you keep grieving people who already walked away. I have peace waiting ahead, but you keep revisiting environments that steal your joy. How much longer will you cry over rooms I emptied for your protection? How much longer will you confuse delay with denial? How much longer will you beg for access to places that no longer align with your future? I need you to stop seeing yourself as rejected. You are redirected. There is a difference. Rejection says you are unwanted. Redirection says I am moving you towards something better. And my child, I have been redirecting you this entire time. The closed door was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your separation from what could no longer carry your destiny. You thought they were shutting you out, but I was shielding your future. You thought you lost access, but I was protecting your peace. You thought the room was everything, but I own the entire building. And now I am standing here with the master key in my hand, waiting for you to finally trust me enough to stop begging outside places where your assignment has already ended. The next season of your life cannot begin until you release your grip on what already closed behind you. I know it hurts. I know part of you still misses what once felt familiar. But familiarity is not always destiny. Sometimes the people become comfortable prison because they are familiar pain. And you keep returning because uncertainty scares you more than heartbreak. But my child, I did not create you to live trapped between closed doors and old wounds forever. Lift your eyes toward me now. Stop crying over who left. Stop worshiping doors that already closed. Stop exhausting your soul trying to reopen chapters I already ended. The future waiting ahead of you is bigger than the room you lost. The peace waiting ahead of you is greater than the comfort you miss. The blessing waiting ahead of you will make sense of every painful goodbye. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness in your life and devotion to God. And if you want, you can donate to us, given link in description or pinned comment to show your support. And when you finally walk into what I prepared, you will realize something powerful. The closed door was never your punishment. It was your protection all along. My child, why are you still standing outside doors I've already closed? Why are you still crying over places where your spirit no longer belongs? I need you to answer this honestly inside your heart, because I have watched you spend too much time mourning things I already removed for your protection. You keep staring at rejection as if it has the power to define your worth. But rejection never had authority over your destiny. I do. And if I allowed a door to close, then trust me when I tell you it was not to destroy you. It was to redirect you before you built your future inside something too small for the life I planned for you. I know how painful it felt when they stopped choosing you. I know the confusion you carried when people suddenly changed toward you after you gave them your loyalty, your love, your patience, and your trust. You expected honesty but received silence. You expected support but received distance. You expected understanding but received rejection instead. And because your heart became emotionally attached to those doors, you started believing that losing them meant losing a part of yourself. But my child, listen carefully now. Some doors close because they are no longer safe for your future. You keep asking why they abandoned you, but you never ask why I refused to let you stay there forever. You keep grieving over the loss, but you cannot yet see the damage that would have happened if I allowed the connection to continue. Some people were slowly draining your peace while smiling in your face. Some environments were weakening your spirit while pretending to offer comfort. Some opportunities looked beautiful on the outside but carried hidden destruction behind them. And because you could not see the danger clearly, I intervened by allowing separation to happen before the damage became permanent. But instead of trusting me, you kept begging outside the closed door. You begged for another chance. You begged for people to understand your heart. You begged for relationships to return to what they used to be. You begged for access to rooms where your peace was already dying. And every time you did this, your soul became more exhausted because you were fighting to stay connected to places I was trying to rescue you from. My child, there are seasons where my love looks like removal. There are moments where my mercy appears in the form of closed doors. But because your heart was emotionally attached to familiarity, you mistook my protection for rejection. You thought I was taking something from you, but I was actually saving you from future pain you were not prepared to survive. Do you remember how hard you tried to keep certain people in your life? You kept forgiving disrespect because you feared being alone. You kept lowering your standards because you were afraid of losing connection. You kept over-explaining yourself because you desperately wanted people to see your value. But all the while, your spirit was becoming more wounded. You were slowly losing confidence, peace, joy, and emotional strength, trying to maintain relationships that heaven had already marked for release. And still, you stood outside the door begging. You begged people to love you correctly after they repeatedly showed you they could not. You begged for honesty from people committed to hiding truth. You begged for loyalty from hearts already preparing to leave. You begged for clarity while ignoring the warning signs I kept placing in front of you. My child, why are you exhausting yourself trying to force your way into places where my presence no longer rests for your life? I need you to understand something very deeply today. Not every closed door means you failed. Sometimes the closed door is proof that I stepped in before destruction entered your future. Sometimes I remove people because they secretly carry jealousy, manipulation, dishonesty, or spiritual confusion that would poison your next season. But because you only see the temporary loneliness caused by separation, you do not recognize the hidden mercy behind the ending. You call it heartbreak. I call it rescue. You call it rejection. I call it protection. You call it abandonment. I call it redirection. The enemy wanted the closed doors to make you question your worth. He wanted rejection to become your identity. He wanted you sitting outside old rooms forever, replaying painful memories instead of walking toward the future I prepared for you. Because as long as you remain emotionally trapped outside closed doors, you will never fully step into the new season waiting ahead. That is why I am confronting you now. Because my child, my patience is running out on this cycle. I did not create you to spend your entire life begging people to choose you after I already called you chosen. I did not create you to build your identity on human acceptance. I did not create you to constantly chase doors that only open when you abandon your peace, dignity, and spiritual clarity. You were not born to beg for crumbs in rooms where your soul feels unwanted. You were born to walk in authority, purpose, peace, and divine identity. But in order to do that, you must finally let go of what already closed behind you. I know it hurts because part of you still remembers the good moments. Part of you still remembers the laughter, the comfort, the hope you once carried for those relationships and opportunities. And because of those memories, you keep trying to reopen chapters that heaven already ended. But my child, memories can become chains when you refuse to release what no longer belongs in your life. Some people were only assigned to walk beside you for one season, not forever. Your role was temporary, even if your feelings became permanent. And when their assignment ended, I allowed distance to happen. But instead of accepting the transition, you turned back emotionally and started worshiping old seasons instead of trusting me for new ones. You keep asking me to reopen doors that I intentionally sealed. Why are you asking me to restore environments where your peace disappeared? Why are you asking me to reconnect you with people who repeatedly wounded your spirit? Why are you asking me to revive things I'd already removed because they could not survive where I am taking you? My child, the next chapter of your life requires a stronger version of you. And some of the things you lost could not come into that future because they were attached to old patterns, old fears, old insecurities, and old limitations. You cannot step into greater purpose while dragging emotional chains from closed seasons behind you. That is why I allowed the door to close completely. Not halfway, not temporarily, completely. Because partial closure would have kept you emotionally returning every time loneliness appeared. And loneliness has been one of the enemy's greatest weapons against you. He knows when you feel emotionally abandoned, you become tempted to return to unhealthy places simply because they are familiar. You begin missing people who drain you because loneliness makes toxic familiarity appear comforting. But my child, familiar pain is still pain. And just because something feels familiar does not mean it belongs in your future. I need you to stop romanticizing the rooms where your spirit slowly suffered. Yes, there were moments of happiness there. Yes, there were memories you treasured. Yes, there were seasons where it felt safe. But there were also tears, confusion, emotional exhaustion, silent suffering, disrespect, manipulation, anxiety, and hidden spiritual heaviness that kept pulling you away from peace. You deserve better than constantly surviving environments that wound your soul. And because I love you, I refuse to let you settle permanently inside rooms that could never support your destiny. My child, hear me carefully now. If I close the door, stop trying to reopen it with your tears. Your crying cannot change what heaven already decided. Your begging cannot restore what I intentionally removed. Your over-explaining cannot force people to value what they already mishandled. Stop exhausting yourself trying to convince others to see your worth. People who are meant for your future will not require endless convincing to recognize your value. The right doors will not demand that you destroy your peace just to stay inside them. The right people will not constantly make you feel unwanted, confused, anxious, or emotionally unsafe. And the future I prepared for you will not require you to abandon yourself in order to enter it. So stop standing outside closed doors acting as if your destiny remained trapped inside them. Your destiny never depended on one relationship, one opportunity, one person's approval, one route. I am bigger than every closed door in your life. I own the keys to places your enemies cannot access. I control opportunities no human being can permanently block. And if I removed you from one room, it means I'd already prepared another place where your peace will not constantly be under attack. But you must trust me enough to walk away from what ended. You cannot enter new doors while emotionally living outside old ones. You cannot receive fresh peace while reopening old wounds every night in your thoughts. You cannot move forward while worshiping seasons I already buried. My child, lift your head now. The closed door was not your destruction. It was your deliverance. Say, I will praise you even in the waiting if you're holding on to hope and refusing to give up. And one day you will thank me for every room I refused to let you stay trapped inside forever. My child, I need you to sit quietly for a moment and allow these words to reach the deepest part of your heart, because you have misunderstood many painful seasons in your life. You keep calling yourself rejected when all along I was protecting you. You looked at closed doors and believed they were signs of failure, but you never realized how many disasters I prevented by refusing to let certain things continue. I know the rejection hurt deeply. I know there were moments when your heart felt crushed because people turned away from you without explanation. I know you cried over opportunities that disappeared, relationships that collapsed, friendships that changed, and prayers that seemed unanswered. But my child, if only you could see what I see, you would understand why I allowed those doors to close. There were people you desperately wanted to stay in your life, but I saw the damage they would eventually cause if I allowed them to remain close to your spirit. You only saw the comfort of their presence, but I saw the hidden jealousy, manipulation, dishonesty, and emotional instability buried beneath the surface. You kept asking me to restore connections that were slowly draining your peace, while I kept trying to lead you away from environments where your soul could never truly heal. But because your heart became emotionally attached, you confused attachment with destiny. My child, not everyone who enters your life is assigned to stay forever. Some people are temporary lessons, not permanent assignments. Some people are mirrors revealing wounds that still need healing inside you. Some people are warnings showing you what happens when you ignore discernment and cling to familiarity instead of trusting my voice. And while you were trying to hold on tightly to what felt safe, I was trying to rescue you from seasons that would have eventually destroyed your confidence, your peace, and your spiritual clarity. You cried because they walked away, but you never saw the conversations they had behind your back. You cried because the opportunity disappeared, but you never saw the trap hidden behind the success you desired. You cried because the relationship ended, but you never saw the future heartbreak I was preventing. My child, there are things I protected you from that you may never fully understand while living on this earth. There are dangers I blocked silently. There are attacks I intercepted before they ever reached your life. There are plans the enemy prepared against you that never succeeded because my hand intervened without your knowledge. But instead of trusting me, you mourn what I remove. You sat outside closed doors asking why I allowed them to shut. You begged for answers while heaven was trying to move you toward safety. You became angry at delays without realizing the delay itself was mercy. My child, there were blessings you wanted too early, relationships you trusted too quickly, and doors you tried to force open before your spirit was mature enough to survive what was waiting behind them. If I had given you everything you asked for immediately, some of those very things would have broken you later. You thought I was denying you because I did not love you enough. But the truth is, I delayed certain things because I love you too much to release them before the right time. There were jobs you cried over losing that would have consumed your peace completely. There were friendships you begged to keep that secretly carried bitterness toward your growth. There were relationships you wanted restored that would have eventually left you emotionally shattered beyond what you imagined. But because you could only see the temporary pain of loss, you could not yet understand the deeper protection hidden inside my silence. My child, rejection from the wrong people is often protection from the wrong future. You must stop measuring your worth by who accepted or rejected you. Human beings are limited. Some people reject what they do not understand. Some people walk away because your destiny exposes their insecurity. Some people lose access to your life because they were only assigned to one chapter, not the entire story. But none of those things change the value I placed over your life before you were even born. Do you know how many times I protected your future by making certain people uncomfortable around you? You thought their distance meant something was wrong with you, but often it was my spirit separating you from environments where your growth would have been suffocated. Some rooms became uncomfortable because your season changed. Some relationships became strained because your spirit was evolving beyond what those connections could carry. But instead of trusting the shift, you kept trying to shrink yourself just to maintain access to rooms I was already calling you out of. You apologized for things that were never your fault. You over-explained yourself trying to keep peace with people who had already decided not to understand you. You exhausted your heart trying to save relationships that heaven already marked for release. And every time you ignored my warning signs, your spirit became more tired, more anxious, and more emotionally wounded. My child, I never wanted you living in constant emotional survival mode. I never wanted you begging for love where there was no spiritual safety. I never wanted you sacrificing your peace just to avoid loneliness. But because rejection frightened you, you kept returning to environments where your soul slowly suffered. You feared being alone so much that you tolerated confusion, disrespect, emotional instability, and spiritual heaviness longer than you should have. And while you were praying for those doors to reopen, I was praying for your heart to finally trust my protection. You keep asking why certain things ended, but you rarely ask what I saved you from by allowing them to end. One day you will look back and realize how many painful endings were actually divine rescues. One day you will thank me for prayers I refused to answer. One day you will understand why some doors closed suddenly, without warning and without explanation. Because if those doors remained open, the future waiting for you would have been compromised. My child, there are blessings attached to your destiny that require separation from old environments. You cannot carry new wine inside broken containers. You cannot enter greater peace while remaining emotionally tied to constant chaos. You cannot step into your next season while dragging old wounds, unhealthy attachments, and spiritually draining relationships behind you. That is why I closed certain doors permanently. Not because I hated you, not because I abandoned you, but because I was protecting the version of you that still had purpose ahead. You keep looking at rejection as proof that you lost something valuable, but many times rejection is simply heaven removing what no longer aligns with your future. You think because someone walked away, you became less worthy. But my child, your value never depended on who stayed or who left. Your value was established by me long before those people ever entered your life. The enemy wanted rejection to damage your identity. He wanted you believing you were unwanted, forgotten, and unworthy of love. He wanted heartbreak to make you desperate for validation. He wanted delays to make you question my faithfulness. But I am speaking now to break every lie that rejection planted inside your spirit. You are not rejected. You are redirected. You are protected. You are preserved for something greater. And though the process hurt deeply, the pain carried purpose. There were moments when I watched you crying in confusion because another door closed unexpectedly. You wondered why life felt unfair. You wondered why things never seemed to work the way you planned. But while you were focused on the closed door, you never noticed the new path quietly opening beside you. My child, some blessings arrive disguised as painful endings because your spirit would never leave familiar places willingly without discomfort forcing movement. If certain relationships remained comfortable, you would have stayed too long. If certain opportunities remained easy, you would have settled beneath your calling. If certain doors remained open, you would have mistaken temporary comfort for permanent destiny. So I allowed discomfort to push you forward. I allowed endings to create movement. I allowed rejection to reposition your life toward purpose. And now, after everything you survived emotionally, I need you to stop worshiping the closed doors. Stop replaying the rejection. Stop asking why certain people could not see your worth. Stop blaming yourself for every ending. Some things ended because they were no longer healthy for your future. Some doors closed because heaven already decided you could not stay there permanently. My child, you are not standing in ruins. You are standing in transition. The old season is closing because a new season is waiting. But you must trust me enough to release what already ended. You cannot heal while emotionally living in yesterday. You cannot hear my voice clearly while constantly replaying rejection in your mind. You cannot receive greater peace while holding tightly to old pain. So let me shift your understanding today. The closed door was not proof that I forgot you. The rejection was not proof that you lacked value. The delay was not proof that your prayers failed. It was protection. Protection from the wrong people. Protection from the wrong timing. Protection from environments too small for your future. Protection from battles you were never meant to carry forever. And one day, when you finally walk into the peace, purpose, and blessing I prepared for you, you will look back at every painful ending and whisper these words with tears in your eyes. Lord, now I understand why you closed the door. My child, I saw every tear you tried to hide from the world. I saw the moments when you locked yourself away because you were too exhausted to explain your pain to anyone anymore. People looked at you and assumed you were strong because you kept functioning, kept smiling, kept showing up, but they never saw the silent wars happening inside your heart after everyone else went home. They never heard the prayers you whispered late at night when fear, loneliness, and emotional exhaustion wrapped themselves around your mind like chains. But I heard every word. I stayed beside you through every collapse, even when you believed you were completely alone. There were nights when your thoughts became so heavy that sleep would not come. You lay awake replaying conversations, betrayals, disappointments, and painful memories over and over again in your mind. You wondered why people changed toward you. You wondered why doors kept closing. You wondered why life became so difficult after you tried so hard to keep everything together. Some nights you cried quietly because you did not want anyone hearing your pain. Other nights you stared silently into the darkness because your sadness became too deep for words. But my child, every single moment of your suffering was seen by heaven. Comment you are my unstoppable victory, God, if He's carried you through battles and beyond. And share this video